Good afternoon to this week's SONAR Market Insights webinar. I have Zach Strickland, our Senior Market Analyst, and myself, Brad Ganane, part of our SONAR team. We're going to stick to our 30-minute script, have some time for Q&A there at the end if we have questions. What we're going to talk about, first we want to wish a happy birthday to our outbound tender reject index. It's a year old today. So pretty exciting to be able to see where it's been, where it is now, and draw some very important correlations there. We're also going to go over the updates to the watch list, show you guys in a little more detail how to navigate and use those, and also a change in the search function and the categories. So we're going to be a little bit more, I think, kind of a 101 side of a webinar here at the start, just to go over some of the changes, and we'll do maybe a little bit if we have time for some market analysts as well, freight market analysis, excuse me.
We'll have time.
Yeah, we'll have time. So do you want to start first with our tender rejection being a year old? We'll go over, talk about what you're seeing, how our users can look at this and use this information.
Yeah, we finally lapped our data on the tender rejections. So now people can look at year over years. There are some markets that have more volume in them than others, such as Atlanta, Dallas, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Chicago, and Seattle are the main ones. These are the big major markets. So these are the best ones to look at. I think we have a little bit more time on a few of the smaller market areas to get complete data on that. But right now, this is going to cover the majority of the freight volume in the country. But I think it's very interesting to see finally we can do some year over year analysis on tender rejections. And I know from my point of view, October last year was a bit of a mess in freight. You had the hurricanes and the economy, and I actually wrote an article on it today, just talking about how it's
way to plug yourself
drastically different. Please check out FreightWaves.com. So, you can see here that the tender rejections in Atlanta this time last year, way higher than they are this year. So you're sitting at a 21.14% in October last year, on October 17th, and now we're all the way down to it as low as it's been in Atlanta. That's pretty insane. So just kind of goes to show you how kind of unexpected the freight market, even though we have these seasonalities in freight in general that we've all kind of prescribed to. It's like, well, how seasonal is it? How, the way I kind of describe it is kind of like long range weather. We all generally know that January is cooler than June. That's typically the way that it works. Well, the freight markets have that same kind of thing. We all know that January is going to be a less, voluminous. Is that a word? Voluminous.
I like the word.
Voluminous time of year than June, but we don't really know what that means. Like volume, like we talked about, does not always paint the entire picture. And uneven volume is really what drives capacity shortages. So having more trucks in an area where there's no freight moving doesn't do the market any good. And consequently, when you have a market where there's no trucks available and there's all of a sudden this huge surge of freight, that's what creates rate volatility.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what happened last year. And obviously, you mentioned the cycles or the cyclical nature of these different markets, and somewhat expected from a capacity standpoint, moving trucks to the right area. But, as we know over the past 6 or 8 months, that we can't necessarily manufacture capacity or even drivers, especially. So when we do have events in some certain areas of the country, they kind of throw the entire nation out of whack. So that's why we've created this fantastic SONAR tool, so you can see and understand how different changes in markets that you may think don't affect you may actually affect you.
Yeah, no, I think that one of the biggest things is looking at some of these markets that are in surrounding areas actually can be as valuable as the ones in the specific market that you're looking at. For instance, the relationship between LA and Phoenix is a pretty fascinating one. Phoenix is kind of like the moon or the satellite market of Los Angeles. So you can actually kind of glean some information looking at both of those in tandem. So yeah, we have year over year. I know that's all important. In the place that I came from, we always looked at, well, how did we do last year as a point of reference? And now we can clearly see last October, quite a volatile time period in relation to this October.
Yeah, and I think as well too, having that data and then looking at we've seen a lot of the major markets over the past year, over the past week, actually had a little bit of a bounce back or increase in their volume, and then seeing how the O-Tri is a measure of capacity, right? And being that the O-Tri has even decreased or it's stayed the same in a lot of these markets, and that being because those markets are, at or below equilibrium, if you will. They have plenty of capacity in and around there to handle some of these volume increases that we've seen in, I want to say, Ontario, Atlanta, Chicago. Really haven't seen anything happen with the tender rejections due to a little excess capacity in relation to these regions.
Yeah, and we can see here, I pulled up the Los Angeles market. Again, this place was similar to Atlanta in terms of tender rejections this time last year, and now they're similar again. And these two markets behave totally different, but you can still kind of see these different patterns between the two. I love it. I love seeing these little trends. So yeah, that's available. Now we've lapped the volume. What's up next?
It's good. So let's go into the watch list next. I think this is the watch list changes in response to, I think, a lot of feedback that we've gotten from our Sonar subscribers and our users who really enjoy looking at the data. Think it's very helpful, but want and would like a little bit of help to view more data on one screen, essentially. So what we've done is we've created, what you're looking at, a blank screen right now. We've added to the watch list so you can customize or use some of our default watch list lists, which let's first show one of the default watch lists. So
I wanted to kind of just I wanted to show them real quick how to kind of make their own page, because you're probably going to want to make your own page for this. And just like any other page, you go down to the edit pages, add, and then name it, and then say add
watch list,
and then you go into your pages and it will be right up here. You click on it, and now you're free to do with what you want. Adding the news, chart, watch list, map. We are going to pick the eyeball, the all-seeing eyeball that's creepily staring at us. And
so actually need to name your watch list first. So your symbol list name. So for this one,
let's call it watch list.
Watch list. Be very creative.
Yeah.
And then you have a couple options here. So you can load from existing symbol lists, which prompts you to pick. These are our default symbols that we've created internally at FreightWaves. So you're looking at the top movers is going to show, we have an algorithm that lists all of the data sets and creates each day a new watch list that shows the data sets that have moved the most. So
yeah, and that's listed by percent change. And we're actually looking to do a few little tweaks to that one to make it a little bit more effective, because what we're finding is a lot of the data sets are not something you want to see side by side. For instance, FMCSA data, you really aren't looking to see how much that jumped in relation to tender rejections.
Right.
So we're actually kind of looking at segmenting this out a little bit further, especially in regards to top movers. So that's why we've added this O-Tri, because that tends to be the most popular indice that everybody wants to look. But we're going to add several more of these lists that you can kind of, they're already preset. So you can just go in there, click them. We're about to show you can click on them and sort them as much as you want. So if you're, say, interested in the Atlanta market, for instance, you can go ahead and find Atlanta. If I can find it through here. One thing, let's just go with, let's pick up Birmingham.
There you go. So we'll list so that's all outbound lanes. So you're going to see a list here. Once you submit this list, you'll get a quick, there you go. Yep, submit it. Then you'll get a list so you're looking at all outbounds from the Birmingham, Alabama X market. You can preview them on the screen. Then once you scroll down, you have the ability to look at them as a standard watch list, or another functionality that we added is the heat map. So based on a positive change or a negative change, it will be a different color, green being positive, red being negative. So once we save this, we have now created our watch list, and we're showing the pure rejection percentage value on these lanes. You can sort the value, so we can look at the biggest negative to the largest positive based on the color. And if you click the value, there you go, that should sort it. And then the three dots there on the right, you can show the change or percent change that you're looking at, so you can a little bit better understand.
Yeah, and this is probably a little bit more of what you're looking at, because what these colors are doing, they're measuring the percent change value. So the lighter the green it is, the bigger the increase in percent change, and the deeper the red, the biggest decrease in percent change you're seeing. So this is useful in numerous ways, especially if you are heavily involved in a specific market and you're trying to get a feel for, well, I saw the outbound tender rejection index in Birmingham went, down today. I kind of want to see what lanes are having the biggest trouble getting filled. And I can see that, man, if I'm operating in Birmingham to Jacksonville, may have trouble getting a lane there or getting a load covered there today.
And that's daily change too, right?
Yeah.
So they're looking at a 5% change.
Exactly. This is daily percentage change in this area. So as you know, not all markets are divided up equally. Mm-hmm. So this has use in the way that if you're really trying to get it more granular and figure out your specific lane, mm-hmm. you can dive a lot deeper, more easily and effectively using a watch list. And you can save these and set these up to do various markets. Eventually we'll have regions that you can kind of set up your own kind of standard watch lists. And I think we're going to go into...
Well, yeah, let's go into that next. So let's X out of this watch list.
So I'm going to just clear that one out.
Yeah, let's go back to... So yeah, if we want to actually create our own watch list. So as I mentioned, we have the couple default lists. So if we go into manage symbol list, we'll actually be able to, and it looks like you've created a few here your own. If we so if you click add, it'll give you a blank. So again, you can name your watch list, your customized watch list. So yeah, let's do and then we'll add a couple symbols in here. So OTVI, so volume, we can customize and add maybe the 3, 4, 5 different volume or markets that we'd like to see. We can add them via the customized watch list. Once we have the exact data sets that we'd like to look at in here, once we save this, as you saw Zach initially pull up the symbol list, it'll be saved into the screen. So whenever you go into manage your symbol list, you'll be able to choose from these different watch lists that you've personally created. So I'm sure each individual has some different. So yeah, there's your OTVI. So we can save it and we can add it, and now we can view via the watch list. And then, so if you X out of it, you can always, once you've created it in this manner, you can always come back to you got to X out of the screen though.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Click back on your watch list here. So now you've created your watch list. So now you can add it. If you go into your load from existing symbol list into your own symbol list, there's your OTVI, use that symbol list, submit it, and then save it there. Or maybe you want to put the heat map, there you go, and save it. So that would be how you would create your own symbol list and then save it, so you can kind of switch and go back and forth between different ones. We have a couple, let's pause really quick for a question related to this. How can you add all OTVI, ITVI to a list? Can't seem to find anything other than OTRIs. So right now we've just uploaded the OTRIs. That's kind of the first.
Yeah, we're gonna start loading those in as we go. We're going to have one that'll say all OTVI, all ITVI, and the various different, I guess, indices that we have. We're going to make those. We just don't want to make too much all at once.
Yeah.
To overwhelm people. We want people to get used to this a little bit. Also, we're kind of making our own adjustments in the background to make sure that this is working as intended. But yeah, the OTVI, ITVI are the next logical one, along with Hall. You're going to have, kind of your high-level indices kind of available as their own list. And then you can actually, I guess we should show them how to append.
Yeah.
Because that's the next step.
I think show them how to append really quick.
So I can X out of that.
And then
add another watch list. And then let's just say I want to have OTRI, use symbol list. And then, well, yeah, I guess I could have started with, I need a first one and then,
okay.
Yeah, use symbol list. And then I can also, once I have those loaded, go in here and say, all right, I want to load, one of these other lanes. And then I can go and hit append. And now all of those will be added to my list. And go back and make sure to click heat map, save, and there you are. And now you've combined two watch lists into one. At least I thought I did.
Yeah, I think you have to save it first. But I think that
I thought I did. Maybe I didn't.
But that shows I think the functionality of how you'll be able to do it soon. But right now we do have just the OTRIs right this second. We will be, once we've kind of made sure, it was just added this week. So once we've made sure there's no issues, we'll go ahead and add the other lists. And then so once you add these from this, are you adding the appended here?
Yeah, I don't think I saved it. I think you have to save it twice.
Yeah. And for your heat map, and then I'm gonna take another question while you're adding that as well. Regarding the heat map, do you have the ability to look at, or saying we have the ability to look at daily percent change? Are you planning on adding the functionality to look at weekly or even monthly percent change? We do have the ability to look at weekly, 2-week, and monthly change for most data sets. If you're looking at the heat map in the bottom left-hand corner, when you put the data sets there's an option to look at various data sets via weekly, 2-week, and monthly change. So you should be able to see that when looking at the heat map. Once we're shored up here with the watch list, we can jump to that really quickly to show you as well. Oh, just looking at the heat map and showing weekly, 2-week, and monthly change.
Oh, okay.
But we can jump to it here in a second.
Here we go.
Sorry. So what did you do while we were taking that question?
I was trying to save one up.
Okay. So you went and you managed your symbols. You added your watch list.
Yeah.
There you go. So now you jump back to your watch list page.
Now I can
load from your existing your symbol.
There's my weekly change. Use symbol list, submit. It'll take it a minute to load up because I selected just about every.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Everyone in there. I probably shouldn't have done that. Probably should have just added as I went.
So it may take a second when you're loading these really large lists.
Yeah, I'm actually going to not load this one altogether. I think we need to probably just create one real quick, just because I don't want to kill the time. So if you were to just sit here and manually create some of these, you could also just go down here and say OTRI W, ABE, add, then keep adding your OTRI W.ATL, hit add there, then you save it, and you've got a heat map list, and you save. Oh, I didn't name it. And
I think,
save.
Yeah, I think that'll be a really good one because it's going to be the weekly change, monthly, 2-week change on the watch list will be, I think, really helpful to look at, and really alongside with the heat map as well, because that functionality is already there on the heat map, but this just kind of gives you another way to look at the data on a bigger scale, if you will.
No, it's there's going to be a lot more added to this to make sure that you can quickly kind of pick the areas in the indices that you want right now. Right now, it's a little bit manual in the way that you have to kind of manually add a few things, anything outside of the outbound tender rejection index, but we're going to add a few more algorithmic type lists and features that'll make it a lot more easy to find some of these places that are of interest, especially the places that are of interest to customers, because the users are the ones that are going to have unique needs, and we're going to try to hit some of the highest levels of what people may want to see on the high level end, but we need to make sure that it's also flexible enough to where individual customers and users can go in there and make their own special watch list as well.
Absolutely. And now let's jump to a chart really quick to show the change in the search function and the table that's now available, to hopefully make it a little bit easier for the newer users and the kind of the first time users. I think by now a lot of our subscribers that have been in and around the platform are pretty familiar with the acronyms, but this is a way that we're hopefully making it easier for you to find stuff or find the data sets you want to look at through these categories. And if you want to quickly touch on a couple of these categories, Zach, and say maybe what is listed and where they're going to go to find what's relevant.
Yeah, so a lot of you may have noticed that we've kind of reorganized the way that we're listing these data points. And that's because we're kind of growing so much that we need a way to kind of consolidate and easily search what's available in SONAR. Effectively, like to have a list of, 130 OTRIs and then 1,300 OTRI lanes and all this kind of stuff, like it makes the search feature really, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
So we've kind of organized it into what we feel are more functional categories, price trends. This isn't necessarily, freight pricing exactly. I mean, our DAT futures, our freight index, rate indexes are in there, but there's also fuel pricing and various other things like that in there that, we're kind of looking at kind of things that are measuring rates and things that impact your freight pricing. Over in the macro capacity, you're looking at things that kind of look at the freight market from a kind of a large 30,000 foot view of what's going on in the broader freight market. Your CAS indices are in here, your Freightos are in here, used truck pricing is in here. That's the kind of things that you're going to look at when you're trying to forecast out into the future a little bit further, see some longer term trends, et cetera, et cetera. Your truck supply and demand is going to be largely your tender rejection indices along with the tender lead time. So every kind of tender rejection indice imaginable is going to be in here, along with trucks in market and tender lead time. These are the things that you're going to use to kind of measure what's going on in the near term capacity, a more granular level, not the macro. Risk management and compliance is kind of a new category that we've added as we've done, the hours of service, drive time utilizations and things like that in the past, but now we have some FMCSA data and DOT information that will help us kind of, it helps you kind of figure out, safety and equipment utilization in specific markets. Then we have the macroeconomic indicators. This is basically a bunch of economic data generated by the census, BLS, and now we have the ISM, things like that. We have tons of this information in here all in one spot. Again, it's more focused on the trucking and transportation side right now. Anything involving supply chain, that's where you're going to find that. And finally, the market volume insights is going to be your tender volume indices and derivatives thereof, your haul, market share, anything to do with kind of things that'll help you measure market volume a little bit more effectively. We also have rack volume in here, and you might be asking yourself, why is ULSD rack volume and the market volume? Well, people buy fuel where they're where the trucks are. So the rack volume is actually a really good derivative of where, you're seeing the largest amount of trucks or expected amount of trucks in an area. So there you have it. That's the
new
indices. And at some point, we probably will add another line or two down here as we get more and more data. We've talked about that. We're trying to make things as consolidated as possible, but obviously, as we kind of expand our data sets, that's probably not possible or effective. So look for more to come there. And then you have down here, this is going to be the second part of your overall ticker. So this top part up here is everything before the period, and the granularities are everything after the period. So now you can go in here and quickly see, okay, these are my granularities that are available on the national level. Here's my X market, my market, I should say, granularities available down here. And then you can pick, all your indices that are available by this category. So you're going to be able to kind of go in here and say, okay, what's MSY or New Orleans has got all this data available in the price trends, and you can go about it that way. This is useful in the way that people are kind of located and only interested in one specific market or area. It's a great place to start. So again, I think everybody gets the picture here. You have pad lanes. That's the DOE stuff. Maritime lanes, that's the Freightos Baltic Exchange. Then we have regions. That is not available for everything, but it is available in some tickers for now. Some indices have the regions available. Industry, this is more the macroeconomic information. Again, I don't think you're going to be searching by that necessarily. That'll probably be something you start with up here, but it is available. And then finally, you get down in here to the futures basket, the Canadian market indices, and the ISM index, which is essentially all of its macroeconomic indice availability.
Perfect.
So,
and we will have SONAR training sessions in person. We're very excited at our MarketWaves event, November 12th and 13th in Grapevine, Texas. A lot of you out there are already confirmed coming, so we're very excited. We just kind of announced that last week / this week, so we will have, as we continue to develop and you all continue on this journey with us, we will this will be part of it, having some of these face-to-face training sessions to hopefully help the adoption process. So those of you that are going, we look forward to seeing you. Those of you who are on the fence or have not quite decided whether or not, we do have some promotional discounts available to attend MarketWaves 18. And if you haven't received any information on that so far, if you want to reach out to us at sales@freightwaves.com, we can certainly provide you with some more information on that. And we are bumping right up to our time. Do you want to give us a quick 30 to 90 second market update, Mr. Strickland?
Let's give a quick one, because I feel like there's some interesting stuff going on. So last week we were talking about the hurricane, and we thought, there's a significant hurricane. Turns out it didn't impact a lot of freight market heavy, I guess, influencing areas. So Tallahassee, not a big freight market, nor is it a big inbound, and it doesn't produce a bunch of stuff. So really, and also I saw some preliminary numbers saying that the overall economic impact is like around $8 billion, which for a Cat 4 hurricane with hitting land at 155 miles an hour, I'm sure people have seen the Weather Channel showing the devastation on Mexico Beach and stuff like that. It's hard to imagine that this is nowhere even, it's not even like, it's like 5% of what Hurricane Harvey was last year in terms of overall damage and impact. And it's probably, I think it's about 10% of what Florence was in terms of economic impact at a high level. So, Michael did not have a big impact. But that being said, the Pacific Northwest has really kind of shown up over the last little bit in terms of tender rejections. So they are having capacity issues in the Pacific Northwest, which, you being a broker, you generally are always kind of like, how do I get out of this place? But this is the time of year where they're having the apple harvest. Christmas trees are about to pop off. You've got a lot of kind of agricultural impacts coming into play this time of year up there as they get ready for winter. We're right in the middle of the apple harvest, are we not?
Yeah, and we've got, so those regions are covering Lewiston, Idaho as well,
Yep.
Spokane, Wenatchee, Washington, Hermiston, Oregon. So a lot being covered in
Twin
those
Falls,
regions. Yeah,
all these areas right
Ontario,
here
Oregon.
showing up as the kind of the Pacific Northwest time of year. As you enter this time of year, it's the only, I guess it's one of the only time of years outside of some intermediate kind of week to week.
And I believe
surging.
it was mainly as well being a pretty strong regional market up there in the PNW. It's mainly tweener rejections too driving. So between that 400, 500 to 799 mile range. So kind of interesting that or I guess it makes sense that, a bunch of that freight or volume showed up and they're having issues covering it because it's kind of outside the norm, if you will, from what that area is typically able to cover from a capacity standpoint.
So Seattle's at the highest level it's been since March.
Yep.
In terms of tender rejections. Then you can kind of see your Seattle lanes, or you know what, I'm going to do length of haul, because this is what's going to tell you if it's regional or not. Length of haul, Seattle. Throw that up there as a comparison, and you can see, your long haul tender rejections. So that's anything over 800 miles is actually showing up as pretty strong right now, which is that's actually very interesting to note, because your over-the-road truckers and not your regional guys are going to be interested to know that that's actually kind of leading the pack. You got your tweener that's spiking up there too as well. So, and to put this in perspective, let's just do the short
haul, which would be like back hauls to Seattle or to Portland, and
there you go.
So they're pretty low.
So low. So your longer haul stuff out of Seattle right now is what's hot, which is unusual because if you have a truck up there, you want to get out.
Oh yeah, definitely. And what's our volume? Let's pull a volume really quick. Let's see what the straw trend line and see what we're looking at from a volume standpoint, what's affecting.
So boom.
So definitely,
let's just go year to date.
Yeah.
We're having some very seasonal or some very high fluctuation right here, but we're still kind of operating in this really high level.
Yeah.
So the volume is, the rest of the country has kind of fallen off. We've watched the outbound tender volume kind of fall off in the majority of the country. We did have a little bit of a recovery this week, but nothing like we're seeing here in Seattle.
Well, and go really quick and show Atlanta, because we're seeing and this is, I think, just shows what a great measure of capacity, the OTRI and OTVI are. And look at this very similar thing we're seeing in tender volume. Now quickly show the OTRI for Atlanta, and I think it actually went down. I believe, don't call me on my bluff. You're on the.
Yeah, no, I'm going to change it.
Okay.
Relative.
Yeah, and I don't want to say Chicago is another market as well. So
volume is actually going up in Atlanta right now, but tender rejections are going down, which again tells me capacity is there.
Yes.
It's just, and that's actually reflected in the head haul, because we still have a negative value in the head haul index, and it's been negative for the past several weeks, which is unusual for Atlanta. And as we recall, the head haul index, when it's negative, means that you have an imbalance in the way that there's a lot more inbound than outbound. So over the past several weeks, I might as well pull it up since I'm talking about it. Haul in Atlanta has been in the negative, and now it's finally starting to move up. It's creep back up. So this means that they have to fill up this gap before they expect to see tender rejections start going up again. So they've had excess amount of trucks in the market sitting here in July and June. This is when the market was at its peak.
But I would like to challenge you on that. Let's look at the haul for Seattle, because I have a sneaky suspicion that it's still negative.
Oh, the haul for Seattle will be negative. I don't think it may go positive at some point, but it's
still, okay.
Yeah, we're still operating at a negative value there, because you're still Seattle's still Seattle.
But that's kind of, I was kind of teeing myself up and trying to make myself look good.
Yeah.
Compared to you.
Yeah.
But that's a prime example of
like
being
Miami.
aware and understanding how each market reacts differently, right?
Sure. Yeah, just like Miami. It's going to be negative all the time.
Right.
It's just going to be relative amounts of negative and positive. Atlanta
Okay.
kind of can fluctuate and go up and down over that 0 mark. So, all right, if you want to.
No, that was a quick blitz. We have one more question, I think, and then we'll hang around here for a few minutes and answer any stragglers that come in. Will Canadian markets be added to the map? They will be added to the map.
Oh, the map.
The
I'm
map,
sorry.
yeah.
I was like,
they're available. They're not quite on the map, and I think it's because, correct me if I'm wrong, they're a little bit different from the actual provinces. We drew a little bit different lines from the markets that are represented here. So
yeah, we will have Canadian markets in the future. We're just having to do a little bit more programming due to the way that Canadian markets are drawn and behave to make sure it's relevant.
Yes, we will. And it's about, I think, all the time that we have. Again, we'll hang on a few more minutes if we have any questions come in here. Otherwise, hopefully, we hope to see you guys here at FreightWaves November 12th and 13th. If you need more information, sales@freightwaves.com or via our website, www.freightwaves.com/sonar. And thank you again for joining us. And we'll, again, hang on here for a few more minutes if you guys have any questions. Looks like we don't have any more questions, so we're going to go ahead and sign off. Don't forget to go out and celebrate the 1-year birthday of the O-Tri.
And I try.
And I try.
Don't leave out.
Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you guys next week at 2 p.m. for the Sonar Market Insights webinar. Thank you.